What's up everybody? So today we are going to be tearing down this transmission. Now in the previous video we ended up getting the subframe and stuff all prepped up, which you guys can see it's sitting over there. That turned out great, got all the bolts and stuff all cleaned up and it's all Loctited. But to continue on with this manual swap, we need to go ahead and rebuild this transmission. Now you and I have never rebuilt a transmission before, so this is kind of a whole learning process for us. We're going to kind of take you guys through and show like our steps on how we do it, or I guess our learning experience. Yeah. Hopefully you guys can learn from us, but if we do anything wrong, I guess let us know in the comments below, because I don't want to throw this in the Civic having something have something wrong, so let us know. Anyway, here is the rebuild kit that we ended up getting. It comes with all new synchros, all new bearings, so hopefully this is everything that I need. The main reason for this rebuild is just because I don't know what kind of condition this transmission is in. I know the previous owner had mentioned to me that third gear kind of grinded a little bit, so the synchro should fix that from what I've read online. So I guess let's go ahead and jump into this and get this thing tore apart. So first thing we did, we got this transmission propped up on its end, put a hammer or whatever you have just to help prop it up. That way it's not resting on the input shaft on the inside there. And first thing we're gonna go ahead and do is pull out these two bolts here. I believe they are 12 millimeters, and there's a spring with a small like little ball bearing attached to the end of it.
Spring's in there.
Yep, so the spring is inside here. You wanna make sure you get that washer too. There's a spring, and then there'll be a little ball on the inside of there that we need to get out next. Alright, so we're going to take this screwdriver, it's magnetized. Hopefully we can pull these little bearings out without losing them. So there's one, it's not a very powerful magnet. And then two. There's two. And then what I'm going to do with this stuff is I have a little box set up here. I'm going to go ahead and throw everything inside of it. Okay, so next, now we got those two out, let's go ahead and pull this out, which I believe is the reverse switch. I think the best socket that I have here is a 1 1/16. I think most Hondas call for like a 27 millimeter, but this is what I have, and it seems to work or fit, so. Yep, just like that. So now that is out, I'll go and put that in the box next. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and pull this plug out. Now that we have all that out, let's go ahead and remove this. This is what the shift linkage connects to. And from what I've seen online, you want to make sure that this is in neutral. And basically, you can see that everything moves freely. So that should be neutral when it's like dead centered here. Otherwise, that's in gear, that's in gear. You can see it goes up and down as well to put in the other gear. But that's neutral there. So I believe it's 4 10 millimeter bolts. And then it's held on with some kind of gasket here. So we might have to pry it off. I'm not really sure yet. But let's go ahead and take this off. So there you guys have it. That all just came out nicely. Okay, so now we managed to get all that off of there. We went ahead, we cleaned off the gasket that was sticking out here just for later. But next up, I think we can go ahead and disassemble all this. So we're gonna take out all these bolts, which I believe they're 12 millimeter and what, there's 14 of them, you think?
14.
So let's go ahead and do that next. Okay, so we went ahead, got all those bolts out of the casing, and now we have it all propped up here. We have like a pry bar, a couple screwdrivers. That was kind of a challenge to get this thing to separate. There's like a gasket and stuff in here that's holding it together, so you have to kind of hammer it with or I guess pound it with a hammer. You want to use like a dead blow, like a soft hammer, nothing like, don't use something like this because this will break it. But we got it pried up to this point here. So next up, there's a little snap ring inside of here that we need to get in there and pry it apart to get this whole case to release and then come up. So I don't have any snap ring pliers, so we're just gonna use these needle nose, stick them in there like so, and then just pry it open. And Luke, go ahead and try to lift up on the case now. And there we go. case is off. Just gotta be careful not to lose anything. Whew, it stinks.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so we went ahead, we got the case off like you guys just saw. So next step up, we need to get these two bolts out to get the reverse gear out. Basically the transmission is all in neutral from what I understand. You can see here that this synchro here, this bronze one as well as this one, this selector is sitting in the middle of it, so therefore it's neutral. But yeah, everything should be good. Everything doesn't really look too bad. It's actually pretty clean inside of here.
Up.
It just, I mean, the transmission fluid stinks, but it's not bad. So
it's old.
We got to figure out where each one of these bearings and synchros go. So first step, like I said, let's go ahead and take this out. Okay, so now we got the reverse gear and everything out. I should just be able to grab this entire assembly here carefully and then just pull the entire thing out and lay it here so we can kind of see everything that we're working with. Alright, so we got two washers here, I believe. So I don't want to lose those. Those are facing down. We go on the input shaft here. So we'll slide those back on. And then you guys can see here all of our bearings and stuff. So this is one that we're going to replace. I think the differential here should come out too. So let's pull that out as well. Okay, that was a bit of a challenge to get that out, but you just got to pull it straight up. We got the differential out here, as you guys can see. That was a little bit more work than I thought it was going to be. Every video I've ever seen, they just kind of lift out fine. This one was a little stuck. The other thing I want to look at here too, I think this is like the magnetic pickup, which,
grimy.
Yeah, that looks pretty bad. So it's probably a good thing we're doing all this. Let's clean that off. And then we're going to need to figure out which bearings go where. We're going to replace this one. I'm thinking we're going to have to hammer them out and everything. So I guess let's just keep on going at this. I guess before we do all this, I want to go ahead and clean up these casings and stuff. So we got our brake clean and stuff just because this is kind of a mess and it's getting everywhere. Same thing with all that inside there. So we'll go ahead, clean these out, and then come right back. Okay, so we're back now. We got all this cleaned out. I went ahead, flipped this up on its side, and I just want to see how it would work and just kind of pound against the backside there, and luckily it did come out. Now when this came out, there's obviously no like writing or anything on this side, but the writing is on this side. So when we go to install this, we want to put it in the same way with the writing down. I believe this one here is a new bearing, so they look identical. They are both SCO5 or SA61, so should be the same. We still have this little piece inside here that needs to come out as well. We have replacements for that too, so let's go and do that. I'm not 100% sure how we're going to get this one out here because I do have a replacement for that one as well. Yeah, right here. So we'll have to figure that out. So we're going to give you guys a little comparison between the old and the new. You can just see how much cleaner this one is here compared to this one. This one's kind of gunky. And the other thing you can do, this one makes a lot of noise. This one here,
Quiet.
can barely hear it. So it should be good. Let's go ahead and install this next.
Flush.
There you guys have it. It's in. That took a little while. Having these punches helps a lot. But yeah, she set in there nice and flush all the way down. So next up, I think we're going to try to pull this one out. Okay, so we've been messing with this for quite some time. We managed to get this bearing out here. We ended up pulling out all the little, I guess what they're called, like needle bearings or whatever. Each one individually and like the little piece that holds it together. So yeah, all those are out. I think it helps if you actually have like a bearing puller. But the text was facing forward, so we have the same text here. We're going to let this cool down a little bit because our trick was to take a heat gun, go around it, heat it up, and then we're able to just kind of pry it out because everything else
wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, nothing else was working. So now we got it out, so now we can go ahead and put this one in. It'll be the same process as we did for this one here. Okay, well, you guys can see here, I managed to get that bearing put in place, and everything's good now. That one was definitely a pain to get out, but putting it in is much easier. It's the same exact thing we did with this, just kind of take a punch and go around the outside to push it in. And I decided to go ahead, put the differential back in just because I don't need that sitting out on the table anymore, and it's good to go. So everything is finished up with this section of the transmission. So our next step will be to work on this pieces here. Now this is kind of a little bit intimidating to look at just because there's so many pieces, and I think I kind of understand which each gear is. Like you can see here, like this should be first, this is second, third, fourth, and fifth, and then this one here with the straight teeth is the reverse gear. So we're gonna need to disassemble this, take it all apart, and get to the synchros, as well as like replacing the bearings that are on the top there. So I'm gonna go ahead, try to reorganize this table a little bit, just because it's a little bit of a mess. I need a little bit more of a cleaner workspace. So I'm gonna clean that up, and then we'll go ahead and start tearing that down. Well, it's currently the next day. Had to take a little bit of break. Need to go get my hair cut, and I also needed to do a little bit more research on what I was doing, just because once we got this all tore apart, I mean, tearing it apart was probably the easy part. It's just looking at all these gears and stuff is very intimidating, and I've never done this before, so I just want to make sure everything goes smoothly and I'm doing it right. So basically what I did, went ahead, got the table kind of organized like I had mentioned previously, and got everything laid out to how I want it to be. The only thing that I kind of jumped ahead and did was I pulled off the gear selectors here. They were attached to here and here, and they follow in these holes, which you guys already saw me pull apart. And then I also took this top bearing off. All you have to do is just take a hammer and a punch and just kind of tap around the edges, similar to how we punched this one in. You just punch it out. So now that is free to come off, and just got to make sure that the letters go back on top when we go to reassemble this. So now that we have this all set up to be the way I want it to, we can go ahead, tear this apart, and replace each one of these synchros in here with the new ones and have this thing good to go. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so as far as pulling this all apart, I'm just gonna go ahead and take each piece off and just kind of lay it here on the table. So I'm just gonna drop it off. So basically if I pull that off like that, just lay it down straight like that. So when we go to reassemble it, it just basically just flips right back over, and we know where everything goes. So first up, we have the bearing. Take that off, set that down here. Then we have this piece here, same thing, comes off, set it there. Here is our first synchro, so we can go ahead and pop that off. The only thing I'm noticing right now is the new synchros that I have don't have this little metal like snap ring here, so we're probably gonna have to reuse these, which I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but I'm gonna do that, so we'll go ahead and move forward and do that. So there's the first synchro, and this is like a little spacer. Then we have our selector. So that's off now. And this piece here, this is a little bit snug. Another synchro. And then our first, I guess this is what? This is, so this will be fifth gear here. The needle bearing, which we gotta be careful with. Don't want to damage that. And then now we have fourth gear. I guess this is a little bit of a spacer. There goes fourth. Another needle bearing. And then here is our synchro, another one. Selector. And then there is our last synchro. So now that we are to this point, I'm going to go ahead and leave these ones here, and we'll just go ahead and replace our synchros basically to the exact same size, and just replace each one of these rings and put them back in. Okay, so here is our old synchro, and this is our new one. You can definitely see quite a bit of difference. Like these teeth on here, I don't know how well the camera can pick it up, but they're pretty well worn down on these edges here. Whereas you look at these, the teeth are nice and big, no wear on them at all. They actually look really good. And like I said, we're just gonna take this like snap ring here, swap it over to this one, and then go ahead and put everything back together. just like that. Okay, so we can go ahead, slide everything back on. So there's that one. And this piece, which when you line this up, you want to make sure that these go down over top of these teeth here. And I've noticed that it kind of takes a little bit to get them to line up. You just kind of have to find the right spot and it'll just kind of drop down. Maybe. There. So like that. And now it's down like that and it catches in between there. So the next up is the selector piece. What I've seen, these teeth, there's some that are a little bit longer than others, and you just have to get to line up properly, and you'll know it'll just like slide down over top. There it goes. That took too long. So I can go and slide that one down, and then we move on to our next synchro, which is here. So I just got to match it up with the next size. Looks like this one should be the same, and if you want, you can always just take them two together and see if they line up, which this one does. And same thing like before, pull this ring off, put it on the new one. Just like so. And go and put this one in place. And then this is our gear. Needle bearing. Spacer. Next gear. Another needle bearing. Like so. And then next up we have another synchro. So, just like before, match it up. This one actually looks too long, so we'll go with this guy here. Yep. That one looks good. So, pull that off. Place it with this. Same thing again. Got to try to get this thing to line up properly. Not quite. Okay, so that one's lined up. Once again, another selector. Okay, that one's down. Little spacer. Next synchro, which would be this one. It's the last one we have. See? Goes down like that, teeth line up. We have that piece there. And finally, the bearing, which would go on top. But we're going to replace this bearing with this new one here. So before we do that, I'm going to go and open this up and replace this one. So here is our new bearing that we have. Like I said, just goes right on top. I'm going to take like a punch and just kind of go around the ring here to get it go down. But before we do that, I want to go ahead and make sure everything works. Okay. So, like I said, here is each one of the gears. You have first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Now, each one of these should be able to select it with end gear, so you can see it goes up. This might be a little bit of a trick trying to hold you guys up here, but there's that one moves up. Okay, and then this, when it's centered like that, would be neutral. Same thing. Let's see if we can get this there. And same thing goes for this. So you can see it goes up, and down, and then neutral's right there. And this won't move as much once we get this bearing pressed down. So let's go and do that next, get this thing tapped down so it's all in place. So there you guys have it. Went ahead, got that all pushed back down. Everything moves like it's freely, so it's good. And you can see now each one of the gears moves. So that'd be neutral again, down, and up. So back to neutral. So everything is set with this one. I think we'll go ahead and tackle this one next, which there's really not much to it other than this one. I guess there's two synchros in there, and then you got the two bearings here on top. So this one might be a little bit of a trick just because it's held on with a nut. Not really sure yet, but we'll go and tear into this one next. Okay, so now for this, we need to go and take off this nut here. It's got kind of like the indented piece there, which I've already went ahead and tried to torque it or impact it off, and it has spun so far. So I'll go and show you guys here. It's a 30mm socket. It just goes over top, and it just spins freely like that. So now that can come off just like that. So same thing, just lay it upside down so we know what exact order to go in. I'm assuming these bearings might be a little bit of pain to get off. There's a small washer here, so I don't want to lose that. Make sure we put that back where it goes. And yeah, we're gonna need to get these bearings off of here. I'm gonna try the same trick I did last time, which so far it's working. Just like that. It's come off. So same thing. We'll lay it upside down. This one actually slides off pretty easily, so I think we can go ahead and continue on with pulling everything off now. Okay, so I was able to get that bearing out. That was kind of a pain. Basically what I did is I took it and just kind of dropped it on the end right here on just like a padded surface, and just kind of repeatedly doing that so the gears themselves would kind of force it off. So we'll go ahead and set this one off to the side as well. We should just set like there. We have our first gear here. Next gear. Ooh. There's a needle bearing and a spacer inside of there. Don't want to lose those. And then here is the big synchro. So we have our selector here. This will just slide off. Oops, don't have this fall apart. So this is the piece that we will be replacing. And that just went inside there. Just get it lined up. And the last one. So we'll leave it here. This is the new synchro for this one. You guys can see here. Same thing from before. Just go ahead and move this little pin here. Just swap it over. I guess not a pin, it's a ring. But I'm going to put that back on. And then just go ahead and reverse everything back in order. So we'll do this again. Just like so. And then this new guy here, I actually have it right here. So here's the new one and the old one of these. They look to be the same, just same thing again. I'm gonna swap over that little snap ring. Go over like that. There we go. So just like that. This is that selector thing. I'm sure this is gonna be a pain to line up too. Okay, managed to get that one on. That one was a little bit of a trick. So So I keep going here. Slide this off. Okay, so I got this one on, so we can go ahead and put this one on next. These ones are a little bit tighter. All I did was just take the 30mm socket that we had, put it down on top of there so it lined up, and was able to hammer here to get that to set down all the way. Otherwise, it just kind of stops at a certain point. So I'm assuming we'll probably have to do the same thing with this one. So you can see it like catches, but it doesn't go down any further, and it doesn't just slide nicely. So we'll have to do the same thing with this one. So just right over top. And there you guys have it. It's down all the way. So next up is our bearings. And I have 2 brand new bearings here. You guys can see there. Go ahead and open these up and we'll replace them in there. So now for this, it should be the little needle bearing things on the inside there. Go ahead and flip it over and lay it on there. And you can see there, it kind of gets stuck. So we're going to have to do the same thing that we did for these 2 gears. Okay, so we went ahead, got that bearing on. Sorry if the table was kind of bouncing. I don't know how well the camera did, but we managed to get it on all the way. So next up, we have this same bearing here. And just like the other one, or not that one, this one, it's got the little ring around it. This is at the top of the transmission that's got that snap ring that holds it down. So we'll go and put this on the same way with the letters facing towards the top. Alright, so you guys can see it. It's all nice and in there. It's really quiet. I guess this one probably isn't too bad either, but it's nice knowing that that's brand new and replaced. So our last thing we have to do is go ahead, put the washer back in there, and then go ahead and put our nut back on and tighten this all the way down. Alright, so now it's all done. Last thing to do is go ahead, take our pick and pound that in just so it locks it in place. So just like that, that's good to go. Now it won't back out, and this whole set's done. So we can go ahead and reassemble it back in the transmission. Alright, so now we're ready to go ahead and install these back in the transmission. I went ahead and put these shifter arms on here. Quick tip for you guys, there's a 12mm bolt here. Which take that off, this whole piece slides out, and then this arm, this section here can come out, and it can be individual rather than being just 2 pieces. Makes it much easier to put on. And this one here is individual, so it's no big deal. So now we can go ahead, line these up, put these together, and match them up in all the holes over there. So I'm sure it's gonna be a little bit of a challenge, but it probably won't be too bad. I mean, we made it this far, so let's keep on going. All right, so first thing we're gonna do is take out these 2 washers here, set them down. That way they don't slide off. And we just gotta make sure all of our shift forks are orientated in the same direction. You should be able to just lift it up like so. Oops. Come on. There we go. Just like that, and it all plopped in. That's awesome. Okay, so now that we have everything put back in place and where it's supposed to be, the one thing that you want to make sure to do is have this one. It's got the little tab up here at the top. It just needs to be on this side of the rod. That way when you go to close the case, it doesn't get in the way. But now for all the gears and stuff, you can see everything goes up and down. So we'll leave it neutral. Same thing with the top here. Put it neutral again. Oh, come on. There, so that's a neutral. Same thing with the bottom. So neutral. So everything's good now. All it's have to do is go ahead, throw in the reverse gear as well as the bracket here that connects it, and then I think we should be all set. All it's have to do is go and throw the case back on. So the reverse gear should just slide in like so, just like that, and then this will go back in here. So that should all be set. All you gotta do left is just tighten those down. So now you got that in, you should be able to make this so it goes in gear. So if we lift up, let's see, down, there. So now technically it should be in reverse. There it goes. So yeah, that should be reversed there. I'm not sure if one of these two need to move, but for now, let's just make sure everything's in neutral and we can go and put the case and everything back together. So before we seal all this up, I'm gonna go ahead and take some like Loctite gasket maker and go around this whole edge. You guys can also use like Permatex, it's the gray kind, or like Honda Bond or whatever. But I'm gonna go ahead, seal all this up and make sure to get it on the inside here, just up along this edge here, not getting into the threads or anything. And then we should be good to go. So let's go ahead and throw that on right now. Okay, so I went ahead, got the gasket all the way made across there. Everything's good now, so we can go ahead, throw this case on top of there. Okay, so now we got it this far. All we have to do is go in here, open up that snap ring again. That way this whole case can just go ahead and sit down evenly. All right, so we got this to go down all the way. We got a ring to snap into place, so that's all set here. All we have to do is go ahead and put each one of our bolts in. I'm not sure if you can go in just a circular pattern or if you're supposed to go opposite of one another. So I think we're just gonna go opposite because that seems to be the best idea. Okay, so now we got this all sealed up, all the bolts are back down. Next up is to go ahead and throw on our shifter piece here. We're gonna need to do the same thing, gonna need to RTV it so that way it seals properly, and then we can go ahead and line this up. Now in order to line this up, you have this section here, which needs to go through there. So you guys can see there, if we would have had them in neutral, they would have all been straight. That one right there. So now it is completely in neutral. So we just gotta make sure that that's all lined up, RTV all this, and go ahead and put it back together. Okay, so now we got that done, we can go ahead and fill in our other holes that we have here. These were the two screws that had the spring and the little ball in there, and then this one was like that reverse sensor. So we'll go and put those in next. All right, so here's the first one. Like I said, it's got the little spring on the inside there. You can see there. And you also gotta make sure you have the washer on there. So we'll go to this first hole here, put the ball in, and then you go ahead and just thread this in. Same thing with this other hole. Get the spring inside there, the ball. So we'll go and pop the ball inside there and thread this one in there too. And then this one's the reverse light or whatever. So we'll go ahead, put that one in there too. And tighten these down. Okay, so now you guys can see here, we got everything back in place. Everything should work now. So you can see here, everything shifts. Let's see here. There it goes. So it goes through all the gears and everything that we needed to. All it's up to do is go ahead, throw in our cap here. I'm gonna throw a little RTV on here, and then that should be good for there. So there you guys have it. We got the transmission all done. It's completely rebuilt. Hopefully everything is good and works properly. We won't actually know until it's actually in the Civic, but I just want to try to document this to make it more like a kind of a how-to or a learning thing for you guys as well as for myself, just because I've never done this before. And like I said at the beginning of the video, let me know in the comments below if you guys see anything that I may have done wrong that I can go ahead and fix while it's out of the car before we actually install this. But yeah, so it should be completed. Like I showed you guys It seems to shift. Everything seems to be fine. The only thing that I did not end up using was these two bearings here, which I believe they're for the differential. And the diff seemed to be fine. I didn't hear any humming or weird noises from it. Plus, those ones, I don't really like the way they are just because they're open ball bearings. For those ones that are factory, they're like enclosed. So I'd rather have it be that way. But for now, I think we're going to go ahead and end the video out. There's still a couple more things I want to do with this transmission, but I think we're going to save it for the next video. So stay tuned for that. So if you guys like this video and it helps you guys out, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.